Some places were never meant to house the living. Some structures hold memories that refuse to fade. Tonight, we take you to Malaysia, to a lonely hostel near the infamous Karak Highway, a place with a dark past that many refuse to even whisper its name. But for the students who lived there, silence was never an option, for the walls themselves seemed to whisper back. This is the terrifying story of the haunted hostel of Karak. As she stepped out of the taxi, gripping her suitcase tightly, Aisha was eager yet nervous. The hostel stood before her, its structure appearing older than she had expected, its windows dark like hollow eyes watching her every move. The wind howled through the trees, sending shivers down her spine as she walked toward the entrance. The moment she crossed the threshold, a sudden, heavy silence engulfed her, as if the very air inside resisted her presence. She met her roommate Farah, who welcomed her with a tired smile. "You'll get used to it," she said, though her voice lacked conviction. Aisha noticed how the lights flickered erratically, the dull yellow glow barely illuminating the peeling walls. The caretaker, an old man with sunken eyes, handed her the key without a word. His gaze lingered for a moment too long, his lips parted as if he wanted to say something, but he remained silent. That night, Aisha lay in bed, unable to shake the unsettling feeling. The air was thick, heavy, almost suffocating. Just as she drifted into uneasy sleep, she heard it. Whispers, soft yet urgent, drifting from the far corner of the room. She turned toward the sound, her breath hitching. But there was nothing, just darkness, and the growing sense that she was not alone. Aisha awoke suddenly, her chest heaving as if she had been running in her sleep. The room was silent, but something felt off. She sat up, peering into the dimly lit space. The closet door stood slightly open, even though she was sure she had closed it before bed. A strange sensation crawled over her skin, an inexplicable urge to look away, to not acknowledge whatever might be lurking beyond the wooden frame. She reached for her phone, intending to turn on the flashlight, but before she could press the button, a soft creak echoed through the room. The closet door moved, just a fraction, but enough to send her heart racing. Aisha forced herself to remain still, rationalizing that it was just the wind, just her imagination playing tricks. But then, from the darkness of the closet, she swore she heard breathing. The whispers returned, hushed voices murmuring in a language she couldn't understand. Cold sweat clung to her skin as she strained to make sense of the sounds. And then, just as suddenly as they started, they stopped. The silence that followed was even more terrifying. Aisha gripped the blanket tightly, her pulse pounding in her ears. Sleep, however, would not come again that night. The days passed, but the sense of unease never left Aisha. Each night, the whispers returned, growing louder and more insistent. Then came the footsteps. At first, they were faint, soft shuffling sounds outside her door, as if someone was pacing. But as the night stretched on, they became more deliberate, slow and heavy, stopping just outside her door before vanishing without a trace. One evening, determined to prove it was all in her head, Aisha placed her phone on the floor, voice recorder running. She lay awake, eyes fixed on the ceiling, waiting. Hours passed in suffocating silence until tap, tap, tap. The footsteps were back, closer than before. Her breathing hitched as she reached for her phone, her heart hammering in her chest. When she played the recording, her blood ran cold. Beneath the sound of footsteps, something else was there, a low, guttural breathing, unnatural and inhuman. And then, a voice, raspy, broken, whispering in Malay. "Jangan lihat ke belakang." Don't look behind you. Her stomach clenched in terror. She turned off the recording and squeezed her eyes shut, unwilling to see what might be standing right behind her. Determined to find answers, Aisha began asking around about room 207. Most students avoided her questions, their faces tightening with fear. But one girl, Nadia, finally spoke. She told Aisha about a former resident, Sarah, who had been found in that room, eyes wide open, her mouth frozen in a silent scream. The official report said she had suffered a seizure, but the students whispered a different story. They said she had been taken by something inside the hostel. That night, Aisha lay in bed, thinking about Sarah. Sleep was elusive, her mind restless. Just as she began to drift off, she heard a sound, scratching, coming from inside the closet. It was slow, deliberate, as if fingernails were dragging across the wood. The whispers returned, clearer this time, speaking her name. The room grew unbearably cold. Unable to stand it any longer, she leaped out of bed and yanked the closet door open. There was nothing inside, just an empty, dark space. But as she turned away, she heard a faint giggle. The door slammed shut on its own. Aisha stumbled back, her pulse racing. Whatever haunted room 207 had just made itself known. Aisha started keeping the lights on at night, but it didn't help. One evening, as she studied at her desk, she felt an unbearable sense of being watched. The feeling grew so intense that she finally turned to the window. Her breath caught in her throat. Standing on the other side of the glass was a tall, shadowy figure with hollow eyes, staring straight at her. Paralyzed, she tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a trick of the light, a prank by another student. But then, the figure tilted its head unnaturally, as if studying her. It raised a hand, fingers elongating into something sharp. Aisha scrambled back, knocking over her chair. The lights flickered violently, and when she looked again, the figure was gone. But the window bore deep, jagged scratches. Aisha barely slept that night. When she did, she dreamt of being trapped in an endless corridor, running from something just behind her. Every time she turned a corner, the figure was there, waiting, watching, whispering her name. She woke up drenched in sweat, the sound of her name still echoing in the silence. The terror escalated. One night, Aisha and her roommate Farah were jolted awake by a piercing scream. It echoed down the hallway, raw with terror. They rushed to their door, peering outside. The corridor was empty, yet the screams continued, growing fainter, as if being dragged away. The hostel warden burst into the hallway, demanding everyone return to their rooms. But as he turned, his face paled. His eyes locked onto something behind Aisha and Farah. They spun around. Nothing was there, but the warden was visibly shaken. He muttered something under his breath, gripping a small pendant around his neck before walking away quickly. That night, Aisha lay awake, clutching a prayer bead her mother had given her. The hostel felt different, heavier, as if something ancient and malevolent had been awakened. She knew then that she had to leave. But the entity lurking in the shadows wasn't going to let her go so easily. Aisha decided to leave the hostel. She packed her bags hastily, her hands trembling. Farah agreed to help her, though her face was pale with fear. As they stepped into the hallway, a chilling wind rushed past them, even though all windows were shut. The lights flickered, plunging them into brief darkness. Then, the footsteps began, slow, deliberate, approaching from behind. Aisha squeezed Farah's hand, forcing herself not to look back. The air grew heavy, the whispers returning, louder this time. "Jangan pergi, don't go." The voice was desperate, almost pleading. Aisha broke into a sprint, dragging Farah with her. They reached the hostel entrance just as the door slammed shut on its own. Banging and screaming, they fought against the unseen force until, suddenly, the pressure lifted. The door creaked open, revealing the cold night air. They ran, never looking back. Aisha never returned to the hostel. She moved in with a friend, refusing to speak about what happened. But the nightmares continued. Dark corridors, whispering voices, and the feeling of being watched. One night, she woke up to find scratches on her arms, as if something had followed her. Determined to put an end to it, she sought out a spiritual healer. The healer listened carefully before handing her a talisman, instructing her to burn it at the hostel grounds. "It wants you to come back," the healer warned. "It doesn't like being left behind." Aisha never did go back. She tossed the talisman into a fire, whispering a silent prayer. As the flames consumed it, she felt an invisible weight lift from her chest. But deep inside she knew the thing in room 207 would always be waiting. To this day, room 207 remains untouched. Those who dare to stay there report the same whispers, the same footsteps in the dark. Perhaps the spirit trapped within still waits for someone to set it free, or perhaps it simply craves new victims. If you enjoyed this chilling tale, don't forget to hit the like button. It really helps us create more terrifying stories for you. Subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a new horror story. And if you know someone who loves real-life paranormal mysteries, share this video with them. Who knows? They might have a ghost story of their own. And speaking of stories, if you've ever experienced something truly terrifying, send us your story via email or voice note. Your nightmare could be our next video. Until next time, stay safe. And remember, some places never let go. Beneath the heart of Edinburgh lies a world unseen by daylight, a labyrinth of shadowy tunnels, hidden rooms, and chilling echoes from the past. But what happens when history refuses to be forgotten? When the spirits of the long dead refuse to rest? Tonight, we take you into the depths of one of Scotland's most haunted places, the Edinburgh Vaults. More terrifyingly, a hostel was built upon its cursed ground. Edinburgh is a city of beauty, history, and legend. But beneath its charming streets lies a darker world that has existed for centuries. The city's ancient architecture and winding alleys hold secrets that many dare not uncover. And as the sun sets, a different side of Edinburgh awakens, one where shadows move on their own and whispers carry through the wind. Tonight, we venture into one such place, an old hostel built upon the infamous Edinburgh Vaults, a place where the past is never truly silent, where the walls have absorbed the agony and fear of those who once lived and died there. Visitors often report disturbing encounters, fleeting figures, and unseen forces. Some believe it's merely the weight of history pressing down, but others know better. The story we bring to you tonight is not just a legend or a collection of ghostly tales. It is an account of real experiences, real fear, and something beyond the realm of human understanding. Sleep is never peaceful for those who have stayed at the hostel, and sometimes it never comes at all. The hostel stands quietly between historic buildings, its aged stone facade blending seamlessly with its surroundings. At first glance, it seems like any other budget accommodation, a stop for travelers eager to explore the wonders of Scotland. But those who have spent a night within its walls whisper of strange occurrences, of an atmosphere so heavy it feels as though something unseen is pressing down upon them. Its history is as dark as the vaults beneath it. Once a bustling trade area, then a place of crime and squalor, the vaults were eventually sealed off, forgotten, buried under the city's progress. But the past has a way of seeping through, refusing to be silenced. The hostel's staff avoid speaking of the strange happenings, but the truth lingers in the empty hallways, in the flickering lights, in the cold spots that appear without explanation. To the unsuspecting traveler, it is merely a place to rest for the night. But for those who listen, for those who feel, The hostel is alive, and what resides within its walls has no intention of leaving. As the door creaks open, a heavy silence settles. The dimly lit lobby greets guests with an unsettling chill, the air thick with an unplaceable scent. Damp stone, aged wood, and something else. Something darker. The receptionist offers a polite smile, but her eyes dart nervously towards the staircase as if expecting something, or someone, to appear. Footsteps echo down the long corridor, yet no one is there. The floorboards groan under unseen weight. The flickering light bulb in the corner sways gently, though there is no breeze. It is as if the hostel itself is breathing, watching, waiting. Those who check in do so with ease, unaware that they are stepping into something far beyond the realm of the living. One guest, an unsuspecting traveler, collects his key and ascends the creaking stairs. He doesn't notice the shadow that lingers at the far end of the hallway, nor does he hear the faint whisper that follows him up to his room. But soon, he will. The room is small but comfortable, a modest bed, a wooden desk, and a single window overlooking the street below. But something feels off. The walls seem to hold a whisper of past tenants, their presence lingering just beneath the surface. The traveler shakes off the unease, convincing himself it's just exhaustion from the long journey. As the night deepens, the air grows colder. The bed creaks as if under unseen weight. A faint tapping sound begins, slow and rhythmic, coming from the wardrobe. The traveler hesitates, staring at the closed door. The tapping stops. Silence. But just as he turns away, bang! The wardrobe door rattles violently, as if something inside is desperate to escape. He leaps from the bed, heart pounding. With shaking hands, he reaches for the handle, but before he can open it, the door swings open on its own. Inside, there is nothing, just darkness, deep and endless. But the scent of something rotten fills the air, and from within the black void, he swears he hears. Breathing, paralyzed, he dares not move. Then, as if satisfied, the presence recedes, leaving behind only an icy cold in its wake. The traveler never sleeps that night. What you've heard tonight is just one of many terrifying experiences from this infamous hostel. The Edinburgh Vaults remain one of the most haunted locations in the world, and those who dare to stay within its grasp may find themselves encountering the unknown. Have you ever had a paranormal experience? A moment where reality blurred with something sinister, something unexplainable? We want to hear your story. Send us your encounters via email or voice note, and your tale may be featured in one of our upcoming videos. If you enjoyed this chilling journey into the unknown, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join us as we continue to uncover the world's most terrifying mysteries. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.